Hello, first video of this year 2024. The entire Japan, I'm sure everyone knows it's not in a festive or happy mode because of the big earthquake that hit the Noto Peninsula. I'm good, I'm okay. My family members, my wife's family, whose hometown is in part of Noto Peninsula, Nanao City, everyone is okay. They're still having a hard time just because I think a lot of the support is not there yet. There's no water. But I think Nanao City in general compared to the northern tip of Noto Peninsula is still doing better because of the less impact from the earthquake. Of course, there were some damages to my father-in-law's house, which is built I think 50 years ago, as well as my Machiya that is also in Nanao City, that I haven't started the project, but there are some mild damages where I think it's not a big problem because I'm going to do some renovation afterwards anyway. But of course, the shake was the biggest that I have experienced in 35 years of my life. I'm just glad that all my family members are okay. My kid was sleeping during the earthquake. My younger one, who's almost turning 3. But obviously, the shake was strong enough that she woke up in between, and I had to just kind of carry her outside of the house after the quake was finished because it was shaking so hard I couldn't. Nobody could stand still. It was very scary. But really, I think this is one of the worst scenario or worst timing for such a big earthquake to hit the countryside of Noto Peninsula, just because usually the year end is where the family members, the kids will bring the grandchildren to see the grandparents, and it's such a calm and peaceful time for 3 generations or even 4 generations of people together. If you know the Japan Sea, in the winter it's always very scary and wild. The wave is very big and it's always cloudy, that kind of image. But surprisingly, this year, the year end and the morning of January 1st is very peaceful. And I saw a news where some villagers were just saying, wow, today is such a peaceful day. And who would have thought that after the conversation, a few hours later, such a tragedy happened. There were a father who brought his entire family to the grandparents' place, and he lost everyone. I think he had 5 kids. His wife, the grandparents. It's hard to see on the news, but very unfortunate. But that is nothing we can do at the moment, but just to hope the situation gets better without any additional upcoming earthquakes or damages from rain, snow, landslides. So to get to the main topic of the video today, really I want to talk about the risk you have to consider when you're thinking to buy a traditional old house in the countryside of Japan. Just a disclaimer, obviously I'm not an expert in the field of earthquake. Neither am I an architect, but these are just my thoughts based on my personal experience. Risk number 1, obviously traditional old houses in Japan. You would have a higher risk of collapsing the house. The house would have a higher risk to collapse during a big earthquake. There are several reasons. First one, obviously, is the weight of the roof tiles. I wouldn't say all traditional houses have ceramic roof tiles, but I would say 70-80% of these old traditional homes have very heavy roof tiles. If you compare the roof tiles to like a Galva metal sheet kind of roof, I think it depends on the actual item, but it would be something between 5 or 10 times heavier when you have the ceramic roof tiles for your roof. And obviously, traditional homes, they're also the choice of doing a thatch roof instead of tiles or even metal. And I think obviously it's lighter, but it's also very expensive to do. And when you're strong against one thing, the other things such as fire, landslide, flooding, you can pick something that is perfect for everything. So for the Noto earthquake, a lot of the homes that collapsed are traditional homes, and I think on the news it says more than 70-80% of the people who died were because they were buried under the house, and part of it has to do with how heavy the roof tiles are. Second, a lot of the traditional homes, it's built with a lot of space, but not a lot of walls. Although the walls usually they will have fittings, fusuma, tategu, for dividing the space, but they are not walls. And a lot of people, the architects I've talked to, would always say that one of the methods to reinforce the structure against an earthquake is to add some walls where it's needed. So traditional homes that would have huge spacious area, I think would have higher risk of collapsing. Third, it's just that old traditional homes, they have been standing there for at least 70, 80, 100, or even 150 years. There are obviously going to be damages to the house that you cannot see compared to an entirely newly built house. It might not be so obvious, but all these damages, I think they slowly build up. And when you have so many small damages and due to different earthquakes in the past, when a big earthquake comes, then obviously I think it's in the position where it's more vulnerable to collapse. And before the big Noto earthquake this year, I think from 2-3 years ago, the earthquake activity has already been very frequent, and a lot of the houses in Noto region has already been damaged by level 5 or level 6 level of earthquake in the past 1-2 years. So in such situation, you can only imagine that it's already taken so much damage when the stamina of the house is left to 5 or 10 out of 100, then suddenly a huge earthquake came. There's really no way that it could escape the damage done by the big earthquake. So anyway, this doesn't mean that old traditional houses is always going to be a lot weaker to earthquakes compared to new homes, because new homes were also damaged or even collapsed during the earthquake this time, and not necessarily by the shaking, but because if you're not familiar with all the damages done by earthquake, it other than the wave of the earthquake itself, it could cause tsunami, of course, and that would just wipe out everything on the coast. But even other than tsunami, there are parts of the ground they're being lifted up, and there are also going to be landslides from around the house. And also, one serious issue this time that came up was the liquefaction of the land. The solid land suddenly becomes like a liquid, and it doesn't matter what kind of house you have on the land, it's not going to stand still in such situation. The second risk that I want to talk about is basically the risk of being isolated from any support lifelines during a big earthquake or any kind of natural disaster. And really, this doesn't apply just to traditional homes, but in fact, a lot of the countryside houses are going to be traditional Japanese houses. So I think this is going to be a very important things to consider. So one big issue now with the Noto earthquake, although they're trying to send all the supports, the human resource and the food, the water, the kerosene, to the people who are in need at the northern part of Noto Peninsula, Wajima, Suzu. But the difficulty comes from being so isolated with so limited roads to reach those small villages, and really under this kind of situation, unless you're somebody who can fully provide for yourself, like a off-grid lifestyle, that you may have no problem to survive even without the support from the outside for a week, 2 weeks, or even a month. But the reality is that I think most people who are currently living in the countryside, a lot of old people, they are not going to be able to survive without any support from the outside. And just by having a house that is so isolated from the cities, I think it really puts a big risk of how you're going to get help when the next big disaster happens in your area. So why I think it's great that a lot of people would want to have a place with great views of the mountain, great views of the ocean, and really being so isolated without people around. I personally would prefer to be closer to the city, not necessarily in a big city because I don't like big cities, but I would still want to make sure that there are enough people to support the community, the city, in case any kind of disaster happens in the area. Lastly, this is not really a risk because if it's in the countryside or it's a traditional house, but this is, I would say, a risk from modern technology is the misusage of social media in this kind of disaster. I think most people wouldn't imagine being the Japanese people being so kind. There would be a problem of people using the social media for a bad purpose, but apparently there are people on X, Twitter, who makes fake posts about themselves or their family members being trapped under the earthquake. They need help. They share an address. They share the information just for the hope that the post would be buzzed, spread around, so they could get a profit from the post. And it's hard to imagine, but just by doing this, they're wasting the valuable resources of the Jietai, the self-defense force from saving 1, 2, or even a dozen lives that could have been saved, but because of the fake information that's being shared on the internet, on Twitter, on X, that some people died because of them. And it's at the moment, I don't think there's anything that could stop them from doing that. Otherwise, they would have been stopped already. But if somebody has a good idea of how one can stop these kind of fake information from spreading on the internet, especially during this kind of difficult time, then that would be really helpful for humankind in general. Okay, so we're at the end of the video. The verdict of this video is that if you want to live in Japan and you want to be in Japan, the reality is that you cannot escape any of these natural disasters. There is a record from the Japanese government showing the areas with over level 6 earthquake in the past 100 years. And I'm showing you the map now, the link, and you can really tell that there is no escape if you're in Japan. An earthquake or several earthquakes are going to come. I want to share a few, I think, helpful tips for you to get prepared before actually buying a house in Japan, or especially in the countryside of Japan. First one, the easiest, I have shared on different videos, but just check the hazard map of your city, of where the house is. If you just type hazard map in Japanese, I'll share it in the comment as well, and your city name, you can easily find a PDF or something online that shows you how much risk or what kind of risk your house is going to be at under different kind of disasters. The second one, I think a lot of people don't know, is that you can actually get your house to get a earthquake evaluation of how strong or how tolerant your house is against earthquake. And I don't know if it's 100%, but I think a lot of the cities would offer subsidy or even for free to have your house inspected by professionals. They will provide you with a really detailed report that I don't think you're going to be able to understand fully, because even for this house, when I bought it, I got an inspection from Kyoto City, and that is for free. I got a page of I think 20 or 30 pages of report on the evaluation of my house against earthquake. And I think they use a number scale of how strong they think the house is against earthquake. And if it's something over 1, it should be safe in normal situations like a 4 or 5 earthquake. But I think most of the traditional homes before renovation is going to be something 0.3, 0.5. And for my house, I think it was also in the 0.5 or 6 range when I did the inspection. So definitely this is something that you should do if you're concerned. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to do a renovation just because you got the report, but it's good that you have a better idea of how vulnerable your house would be against a big earthquake. The third tip is fire and earthquake insurance. This is not mandatory, by the way, and it depends on the type, the company as well. Some companies, they will not provide this kind of insurance for houses that are over 50, 100 years old. But the companies the company that I use and that I recommend to some of the clients who bought traditional homes, even if it's an old house over 100 years, you could join this kind of insurance. The calculation, again, I'm not 100% sure, but it's based on how old the house is, how big the structure is, and if it's built by wood or built by metal. So in the end, you could adjust the insured amount, but the big idea is that 100% of the insurance, if it's a fire, 100% of the insured amount can be covered. But if it's an earthquake, or if it's a fire caused by earthquake, then the maximum that can be covered would only be 50%. But in the end, if you think your place is in a high risk, or if your house you think would be in high risk, consider joining the fire and earthquake insurance, just for peace of mind. For Noto area, obviously this is not the best timing to visit, but when everything is back to normal or close to back to normal, the best we can do, visit those places, spend money, go stay at hotels, onsen, and hope for the best for the recovery of those who are affected by the earthquake this time. I hope the tips, the information for the video is helpful. Thank you for watching again, and I will talk to you soon at the next video.